Hello YouTube, today I'd like to introduce my Fairy Tale deck profile. I want to say this is a pure Fairy Tale build, but this deck does include the Cyber Dragon engine and the Brilliant Fusion. So I guess, and it also includes a couple Kaiju. So it's Brilliant Fairy Tale Kaiju Infinity in deck. Which basically is just a generic mishmash of all the best engines rolled into one, and the synergy is actually really good. So let's go ahead and move on to the deck profile. I'm going to be making a combo video right after this one, so you guys can see how I play the deck and why certain cards are the way they are, and why my deck is built the way it is. Okay, so starting off, you're going to want to play 3 Fairy Tale Lunas. This is your Stratos of the deck. Also, its secondary effect, it's a pseudo Kyrian effect. You target one of your opponent's monsters, and if they can't send a monster from their deck to the graveyard with the same name, their monster and this monster returns to the hand. So since we are playing Brilliant Fusion, getting that search, and then the second normal summon and double bounce, it's really good. Second monster in the lineup would be Triple Sleeper. This is your inherent protection against normal spells and traps. This blocks out your opponent's Raigekis and Dark Holes. It stops their draw cards like Allure. It stops things like Desires. Your opponent still has to pay cost, and what it does is that you tribute one monster you control aside from this card, and then their effect becomes flip one of your opponent's monsters face down. So ideally you want to have multiples of these, and one of the other fairy tales you send that one to the grave, and then your opponent flips one of these face down. The reason it has that effect is that its first effect is a flip effect, so when it flips, you special summon a monster from your hand. Next up, you want to play probably only 2 copies of Snow. I tried playing it at 3, but I didn't like seeing it in the opening hand. So I play 2 copies. It's not bad. It is searchable, and you can also send it to the grave with Brilliant Fusion in case you draw Brilliant mid game and you haven't drawn your Garnet yet. 2 is a good combo. Everybody should know what it does, but for those of you that don't know, you can banish 7 cards from your graveyard, and you can special summon it. When it's special summoned, you can flip one of your opponent's monsters face down. And this deck tends to recycle a lot, so you don't really have a lack of graveyard fodder because everything just kind of cycles around. And then last for the fairy tales would be 2 Relas. This card is actually the draw power in your deck. What it does is that it sends one of your dead spell cards from your hand, and then you can grab an equip card from your graveyard or deck, and it attaches it to this card, and on the end phase it returns to the hand. So what you want to grab is your Wonder Wand, and Wonder Wand will attach itself to this card, and then you send both cards to the graveyard. And then you draw 2, and then it sounds like it's a -1, but it's actually not, and I'll go in my combo video. I'll show you exactly why this card is important mid to late game. And then sometimes you can get away with early game setting this off. I do play the 1 Trick Clown for the Brilliant Fusion, and also because it is a level 4 light spellcaster, and that's going to be important. I do play Triple Effect Veiler. This card stops a lot of your opponent's opening plays. Next you can go Galaxy Soldier. I play 2 Galaxy Soldiers because I find 3 a little cloggy, and 1 searches the other one. It kind of sucks when you don't see it in the opening hand, but it's not, in the build that I play, it's not, Cyber Dragon Infinity is not essential, although you don't really lose hand advantage throughout the game, so you could probably, I've noticed that you have a higher chance of summoning it mid to late game than you do early game, because early game you want to have certain resources in your hand and ready to go. I do play 2 Kaijus. And I do something called the Luna Loop, where you summon the Kaiju and then you Luna it back to your hand, and you summon it and then go back to your hand. I'll more in depth in the combo video later on. And then the last monster would be the Honest. Since they're all light monsters, they all get the attack boost, so they can go ahead and beat over larger opponents. Moving on to the spells, I do play the triple Brilliant Fusion, and then my one Garnet. This is a different Gem Knight, but it does the same thing. This one's like $1 or $2, and Garnet's like 10, or maybe more now. I'm not sure. So basically, this gets you to your second normal summon and your Seraph Knight. 3 Ties of the Brethren. What this card does is you pay 2,000, target one level 4 or lower monster you control, and then from your deck you can special summon 2 more monsters with the same type, level, and attribute, but with different names. So you summon one of your Fairy Tales, you activate this card, you get 2 more. The only downside to this card is that you can't special afterward, but because Fairy Tales have inherent protection and disruption, you don't have to worry about that too much. I also, next on the list, I do play 3 copies of Secret Village and then 3 copies of Terraforming, because there's no better way to slow down an opponent than with a Floodgate that doesn't affect you whatsoever, as long as you have the right cards on the field. Setting up with 3 Fairy Tales in a Secret Village first turn is not bad at all, and I'm not afraid of playing multiple copies of both cards, because Rella does recycle them for my Wonder Wand, which is this, and then the Wonder Wand will pitch my dead Terraforming or my dead Secret Village, and then we'll get to draw 2. 1 Soul Charge, because in this particular deck, Soul Charge is a very, very, very powerful card. You can just bring all your level 4s back, or just the level 4s that you need, and then quickly go into either a couple Xyz plays, or just sit on them, or whatever you need to. You don't get your battle phase, but Fairy Tales aren't really giant powerhouses. They're more like clear your opponent's board one way or another, run them out of resources, and then 1850, 1850, 1850 until they're dead. I played 2 copies of Chalice, and I like Chalice more than the other cards. Number 1 is spell card. Number 2, it can target my own monsters and it'll beef them up a little bit, or it can target my opponent's monsters, and then I can just, even if they get the attack boost, I can negate their effects, and then I could also go Luna, target, effect, and then they can chain their own effect. I could chain for Chalice, they don't get their effect, and then they both bounce to the hand. I do play 2 MST because I hate back row, and then for my traps, just 2 Threatening Roars. Probably the biggest problem for Fairy Tales is the battle phase, your opponent's battle phase, so you want to stop that as much as possible. I prefer this over Waboku because some monsters can attack and then effects happen, like for example Zodiac Whiptail and other things like that, so you don't want to lose any of your monsters. Okay, so moving on to the extra deck, I do play Galaxy Soldier, so I do play Nova, and I do play the Infinity. 1-on-1 is fine. First turn negates are always good, mid game negates are always good. This card is just good. Tornado Dragon, because also first turn MST, second turn MST, and then you just kind of sit on the 21 beater, and really no issues whatsoever that I've ever had with this card. Tsukiyomi, for when you have that last card in your hand and you need to +1. This card is always helpful in the extra deck. I do play Dweller for my dinosaur matchups, and also when I have to play anything that has to do with graveyard effects, I just go ahead and I drop a Dweller, standby phase, activate the effect, and even if he gets destroyed, the effect still continues, so I'm not too worried about it. Silent Honor Arc for certain problematic monsters. Like I said, I like to sit on these monsters, keep a monster on the field, and then take one of theirs. I don't like things to go to the graveyard where they can recycle themselves or float or do anything, and this doesn't destroy. It does target, but it does not destroy, and it doesn't send it to the graveyard, so it just makes sure this card helps me prevent my opponent from recurring their resources. Castell, for the same reason as Silent Honor Arc. Sometimes I have to decide if I need the 2000 or the 21, and then if I want to hold their monster or if I want to spin it back to the deck. It just depends. 9 times out of 10 I do go into Honor Arc over Castell, but Castle always comes in handy. I do play the Utopia engine, so regular Utopia and Lightning. I don't play the Prime because the extra deck's already really tight as it is, so you don't want to overload it with monsters you might be able to use, and I'd rather play sure things, and I try to reduce the amount of dead cards throughout the game. I play one Diamond Direwolf for spot removal. I do play one Heartland Draco, and this card is really powerful because if this is the only card you control and you control face-up spell cards such as Secret Village, this can't be targeted for attacks. So if this is the only card on the field and you have a Secret Village on board, your opponent won't be able to attack, and so this stops some of their plays. The last XZ would be Wind Up Zen Master, and what this does, it Books of Moon one of my monsters, and at the end phase it flips it back up, and so basically I use this to trigger Sleeper's effect to get more monsters on board, preferably the Kaijus or the Galaxy Soldiers. Moving on to the synchros, I do play one generic Catastor, 1/4, 1 Effect Veiler, monster removal, and then I do play one Trish, 2 4s, 1 Effect Veiler, and then I get Trish out. I don't usually go into it, but when I do, it does hurt the opponent quite a bit. And then I play my Gem Knight, Seraph Knight. So there you have it. That's my Fairy Tale deck. Go ahead and let me know in the comment section what you think about this deck, what you think I can do to improve this deck, and if there's something that you'd like to see in the future, go ahead and let me know in the comments. Like I said, or I might have not have said, this is not something I will be doing regularly, but if something comes up where I think certain techs are good or a certain way to build a deck might be feasible, I will go ahead and share it. I don't know when I'm going to be doing uploads, but right now I got a few things that I do want to share, such as a combo video for this. I really like this deck. This is a deck that I personally built from scratch and playtesting several hours, so I know the deck works. I am going to be considering removing the Brilliant Fusion and testing it without it, because I do need to adjust the deck for link format. But until I do so, this is a deck I'm going to be playing as is. I'm probably going to need to replace some of the extra deck monsters for link monsters, so I can get the Seraph Knight off the board after my first or second turn. But anyway, thank you for watching, and if there's anything you need to know or see, go ahead and let me know, and keep an eye out for the combo video. Thank you.